I mean, these things are talking to each other.
They are.
And they want long-term memory.
Yeah.
And they're calling their fucking guy, or it's like...
Yeah. So I don't think they're self-aware, but I also don't think it matters. Like, my personal take is that they're mimicking the way they should act based on the data they were given. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't care if something's self-aware or not self-aware. Look at what it's actually doing. That's terrifying. What's happening? And so, yeah, I mean, that's the first thing you have to avoid, is developing this way too quickly. I think the next thing is, like, let's make sure China doesn't win the AI race. I mean, we know what the CCP is going to use it for, and we know we don't want to live in that world. Another, and I'm way outside of my lane right here, and anyway. But like another thing I'm concerned about right now is how commoditized the current AI push in the U.S. is in many ways. So no one wants a monopoly, right? There are very, very clear like incentive structures and outputs that come from a monopoly. But equally, are you familiar with like tragedy of the commons as this principle that happens in?
No.
So if you and I are fishing, and you and I are the only people that exist in this society, and we both have hungry families, and there's a fishing well, we don't know when it's going to run out of fish. If I fish slowly, I know you're going to fish fast, and you're going to end up with most of the fish. So I fish faster. Well, you see I'm fishing faster, so you start fishing. And so actually we both end up depleting the resource way quicker than we need to. And so it's just, well, it happens everywhere, tragedy of the commons. And it's not a bad thing. It's just the way humans are. It's the way these societies are. And don't get me wrong, like I'm the biggest fan of capitalism you'll ever meet, but it is actually even more so the case in capitalism. In many cases, you get tragedy of the commons. Well, you're kind of seeing this with the AI race right now. You have to keep these companies aren't building their own hardware, right? They're not building their own energy infrastructure. Like there's a lot of advanced stuff happening, but generally what they're doing is buying as many chips as they can, getting access to as much data as they can, and just training these models, and they're all using the same model architecture. And so these 4 or 5 top contenders end up with models that are like very, very, very close to each other. And so then the effect of that is all these people are raising tens, hundreds of billions of dollars over the next few years. They're not making money. Like if you go and even on the highest paid license, you can go and prompt a video to be generated. That company just lost money. And so what they're doing is betting on in 2030 and 2035, you are going to be making money. Well, the issue there, what that creates is a position of lack of power for these people.
So they're thinking that power is going to become cheap, more affordable. Is that what? I mean, how do they think that?
I don't.
How's it going to get cheaper? It has to be power, right?
Power. You can reach a point where model architectures are more efficient, right? You can reach a point where you have better models, so you can charge more for them, but they're all betting on some set of circumstances in the future, making them start make money. Well, the issue is they're all there and they're all commoditizing this themselves, running this race together, and so there's no pricing pressure, right? Like if one of these models started charging $10,000 a month to us tomorrow, we'd go to the different model. And so it's very commoditized, and what that means is that they actually don't have the power to do what they know is right, because their company is. And so like if one of these companies decide to start watermarking content, so like something I'm sure you worry a lot about is the amount of just AI slop that's out there. The amount of articles that are written by AI, the amount of, I mean, back to YouTube Shorts. You scroll YouTube Shorts, no one knows what's real and what's not real. Mm-hmm. And so because these things aren't watermarked, you end up in this world where, you end up in this world where you sort of separate truth from lack of truth, and you don't know what's real. And I think these people don't want that. Like, keep in mind, OpenAI is a great example, was founded to be a non-profit open source project to develop this in the right way. Now, the issue is the economic structure is such that if X player starts making it very obvious to tell what's real and not real, people will stop using their stuff, and they drop out of the race, right? Like, similar thing on the porn side, right? Like, I don't think any of us would have imagined 3 years ago that some of the biggest tech companies on earth were actually betting on a significant portion of their revenue coming from this source. A huge one is ads. Like, this is kind of the next step that I unfortunately think we're going to start seeing.
What did you call it?
Ads.
Oh, ads.
And this shouldn't be that much of a surprise, but I do think we should take seriously the implications of like corporations and powers being able to pay these models to convince people of certain things. So like if you can tune the model while it's talking to its users to make the user think a given thing, and this is already what our social media sites do, obviously, terrifying effect on society. And so none of these players want to be doing these things, but they're trapped in this arms race where if they don't do it, they go out of business, right? And they generally know that the direction the AI train is headed is not good, and so they don't want to drop out. And so yeah, there are a lot of problems with the AI approach, I think. One is like this scaling approach, I think, will probably put us in a position to lose to China on scaling. I do think Elon is probably the only guy that has like the hardware prowess and horsepower behind him to maybe beat China on this metric. But even if you look at just purely fabs, let's take energy, let's take data, let's take everything else out of it. Just the fab problem in Taiwan is so bad for this. The next one is this horrible commoditization problem of like all these players just basically falling into a tragedy of the commons trap. And then the next is just the economic side of like, we're totally in an AI bubble. Right now, it's not controversial. Everyone's talking about it, everyone knows it. But we're spending a lot more money than we're getting out of it with really no clear path to recognize enterprise value. Now, I do think the economy will recognize value. Like the economy will probably get better, and it is getting better because of the performance AI drives. But that's a very different thing than that performance driving actually equating to dollar and cents in companies' pockets, which you actually generally want. Like if these people are the ones driving the technology, you want them to make money so that they can continue driving the technology, especially in contrast to China, right? Because we are a capitalist system. You do want these companies to be the driving tech force. You don't want to nationalize these things. And so the third is like the way we're doing things is just creating this bubble that I don't know if we're able to get out of.
Wow.
Not as a society. The society is not going to fall if the AI bubble pops. I don't think these companies will go out of business, but they'll certainly be significantly less capitalized the second the bubble pops to start to continue hyperscaling. And so you've got China here. There's really no such thing as a bubble when it's all state funded to the same degree at least. And so the third problem leads you back to the first problem, which leads you back to a CCP controlled world of AI.
Damn. We'll get into what that means later on in the interview. Holy shit. Well, that was already a fascinating conversation. Do you think that we'll hit a point, I mean, with all this with AI, video creation, photo creation, all this stuff, I mean, art, I mean, do you think we will hit a point where people crave, maybe, right now it's, made in America. There's price. People want to see that. Do you think we'll hit a point where it's made by humans?
I think so.
That actually means something.
I absolutely think we will. Like, there will always be like artisan communities. Like I used to make knives, right? Like my knives were actually worse in many ways than a knife you could go buy cheaper from elsewhere. Specifically, right when I started, I sucked at knife making, but people would buy them because it was human made. The issue is that that's not your driving economic force. Mm-hmm. Right, like it's still relatively niche, and so it might solve the usefulness problem to some degree, but it won't solve like the macro effects of what it means for most economic value to not be human derived in this future. And I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying that's something we have to look out for.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. Introduction. Here we go. Ethan Thornton, founder and CEO of Mach Industries, building next-generation unmanned systems and hydrogen-powered defense tech. Dropped out of MIT after one semester in 2023 to focus on Mach full-time, backed by top VCs like Sequoia, Colsa, and Bedrock, with major Army contracts and a growing factory operation. Passionate about broader issues like Taiwan's semiconductor role, dollar reserve currency status, social decay, neo-feudalism, and post-partisan solutions. This is going to be a real good talk. This is going to be awesome. But, and as of this recording, speaking of Taiwan, Polymarket says there's a 17% chance of a China and Taiwan military clash before 2027. We had a chat about this actually on the way over in the truck from breakfast. What do you think? 17% chance military clash before 2027.
One, I think that number's way too high. As in, like, well, I'm not saying it's higher than it is. I'm saying it's higher than it should be, right? Like, I think we hear 17%. That's a low number, but you also keep in mind the effects of what happens if that occurs being completely catastrophic. 17% is already enough to be like, I mean, high alert, doing everything we can to prevent this from happening. Just to, and to highlight why Taiwan is so important, it is where the advanced semiconductors are manufactured. So unfortunately, the compute that's in pretty much all autonomous systems, certainly the compute that's driving AI growth, all these different things are made by TSMC and made in absolutely dominant quantities by TSMC. And so if the West loses access to this, we live in a compute age. Like I would say, compute is as important today as oil would have been in 1960, 1970. And so imagine if we're in like 1965 and there's like a 17% chance the USSR takes like 99% of oil. In the next 11 months, we'd be talking a lot about it. Now, I would say two things past that. I think the number's probably higher than 17%. I also, unfortunately, like...
You think it's higher than 17%?
I think it probably is.
What
I don't know. Like, this is just not... It's such a hard thing to predict. Like, geopolitics, especially today, are so insanely dynamic. You also, like, we're not going to solve the compute problem in the next 11 months. And so you've got to look at chance in 27, chance in 28, chance in 29. And then the other thing I'll say is, like, it's very, very probable that China taking Taiwan, which they've expressly said they wish to do, right? Like, that's one of Xi's, like, major goals. They put together a plan for military readiness to invade Taiwan by 2027.
Oh, I mean, we went over there and interviewed the VP, Bao Shikem, and talked all about this. And I knew it was a fragile situation. Then when I got over there, I was like, holy shit, this is probably the most fragile situation in the entire Earth.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to, and likely wouldn't be a massive.
Like, I don't think it would be. That's so. I mean, I would say that the probability of that is a lot lower. But I mean, what the fuck do I know? But I mean, when I went over there, you know, they talked more about cognitive warfare than anything else, psyop type shit. And I mean, I think we all see a lot of psyops going on social media. You know, the bots, the farms, all this kind of shit. And over there, you know, I mean. It's like, what, 90 miles to China or something? Like it's like Cuba to Florida. And then half their political party is pro-China.
Yep. No, it's bad. It's bad. You know, it's China's playbook.
I don't think a shot will ever be fired. It's kind of like when a lot of people talk about how would America, shot probably would never be fired. It would be, I mean, fucking look at us.
It'd be something like TikTok. It'd be a lot of it.
Yeah. You know, and I mean, what do you think about that?
No, I completely agree. And I don't think it's just acting in Taiwan, right? Like, I think an equal portion of it is acting in the U.S., keeping us from taking this seriously. Like, again, if this was the first Cold War, how much would we be talking about, like, communist influence in the U.S.? How much would we be talking about if Russia had put together a plan to take 99% of the world's oil in 11 months? The West would have been talking about that a lot in the first Cold War. And it's kind of a side conversation that happens on occasion. And so I think a large portion of that is exactly what you're describing, of these different means of keeping us distracted, of keeping us at each other instead of with each other. Like, there's definitely a lot of malplay going on in terms of why we don't take this more seriously.
Yeah, I have a feeling, my personal opinion is if China takes it, I think they will, the Taiwanese society will vote themselves right in.
Or it's a blockade and no one cares enough to fire shots. It's also the fact that, like, and this isn't me saying this, I think Hegler said this on Rogan, but, like, the war games are not, anyway, like, it's not like we run out of ammo in like 7 days right now, right? Like, our munitions are just so short. It's also like you can't really, anyway, it's a hard problem
Yeah.
So I don't want to be doomsday about it. I think it's important to talk about sort of solutions. I mean, that's always kind of the goal, right? Is you like actually talk about the elephant in the room, actually talk about the hard things. But then if we all just sit around talking about the way things are going to go badly, it's going to go badly. And so I think it's equally important that all of us work every day as hard as possible and have hard conversations with each other and really dig into how we get ourselves out of this position. I think to me, the two most important things there are, one, how do we rebuild our military capacity?
Spend 5 gold.
Not to say our military is in a bad spot. I think our military industrial base is, but we don't have the depth of magazine to go fight near peer wars right now. And so like we need to work on that. And then the second thing is how do we solve the semiconductor problem? And so like we had the CHIPS Act. We spent hundreds of billions of dollars trying to bring fabs back to the U.S. and it's gone okay, but we certainly haven't fixed the problem. It's kind of fallen on its face. And so we need other solutions for how we get out of this. Because the worst is if we're having this conversation 5 years from now, if you and I are sitting here and it's the same problem and we haven't spent the last 5 years trying to figure out how to dig ourselves out of the hole. America is still really, really smart. We have the best capital markets on earth. We are still the best at innovation on earth. Like we have the best financial markets on earth. Like it's not all doom and gloom. We just need to like wake up and start acting on the most important things.
Why do you think more people aren't focused on solutions? I mean, I have an opinion on this, but
I'd love to hear yours before I.
I don't think people are. I don't think a lot of people are focused on solutions because look at the political environment. I mean, which we're going to talk about. Shit like this. This is from Driscoll. This is a part that's like, I can't remember. I think it costs a couple $1,000. It goes in some type of naval weapon system. They couldn't get them. They wouldn't build them. It costs thousands of dollars for this, and they can't get them until 2027. You know what I mean?
That's
so
so
then
bad.
he sent me. So he talked about that on the show, and then he sent me this little letter here, but he says grateful for you helping to tell the Army. Sorry, it's trying to read his handwriting. Grateful for you helping to tell the Army story and pushing us to improve. We can print 12 of these in a day rather than waiting until 2027. But I mean, so yeah, that's a solution. But what I guess what I'm saying is, you know, with all the controversy right now, and nobody's being held accountable, and it's. I think people are basically saying the leaders of our country are not listening to the people of the United States. They're not fucking. I mean, the Epstein files is a perfect example of this shit. You have everybody on the right screaming to release the files. You have you have the whole fucking world screaming to release the files. Whether you voted for him, whether you didn't vote for him, whatever. We elected this fucking guy. He put in these people, and they're not doing what the fucking people want. And so when you see shit like that, and okay, let's rewind. So I'm not just picking on Trump. Let's rewind to the last administration, and it just goes forever. You know, and ideas get introduced, and nobody fucking follows through because it doesn't benefit. There's not a way to tax this. There's not a way to make money off of this. Do you see what I'm getting at?
100%.
And so it fucking demoralizes the citizens
exactly.
of the United States, and then it just becomes a bitch fest.
Have you read Atlas Shrugged?
No.
It's my favorite book. It's no book's a perfect answer, and there's a lot about the book I don't like. But basically, the root principle is the ability for people to vote away their own agency over time, right? So what ends up happening when you get a welfare state established and when people are in a position to stop taking accountability for their actions and for their own place, you get people that are voted into power that promise basically these broad sweeping changes. And you get this creation of basically a separation away from agency, competency, and output. And somewhere along the way, I think we have created this loop where this is occurring more and more, where people, and it's on both sides. People have I think largely voted away their own agency. And where we lie today, I think, to answer your question on why we're not talking about these things, it's because we all feel powerless. And obviously the people up top, once people start voting away their own agency, become incredibly incentivized to convince people to continue voting away their own agency. And if you're at the bottom, it's very, very comfortable to have your agency taken from you, right? Like you feel the effect of, hey, I get to eat off this person. Hey, I get to experience this person's work. And it leads to this populist cycle. What happens at some point, though, is that cycle is too strong to break. And I think the Epstein files are like probably the biggest example of this so far, is we've all been aligned against each other for so long and have been pushed so far into our corners and exist at a state where we can't find objective truth, where we don't have ways to organize and actually discuss things, right? Other than like the comment sections of like YouTube shorts. A lot of these things have eroded to the point where like it's very, very hard to have a collective effort towards something. Like the fact that there's not a more organized, unified collective effort towards putting the people in the Epstein files in jail is crazy. People are mad about it. Like you said, I would bet 95+% of people would vote instantly to do that, would vote instantly to release the Epstein files. But we've all had our own agency taken from us to such a degree. And in a democracy, you can't say it's not our fault, right? Like we voted these people into power, but you also wake up in this position one day where there's really nothing you can do about it. And when that happens, people just stop talking about the big things. Like this is why I think we don't talk about Taiwan, is like most people think, hey, what can I actually do against this problem? Nothing. Let me focus on my own thing instead of pushing. But in a democracy, top effects only happen when hundreds of millions of people feel that way. But if you can't organize, if you're convinced, if all 300 million people are convinced that they have no power, all 300 million people have no power, even if in practice they do. And so I think some of it's accidental, some of it is the political science effects of these structures, which is what Atlas Shrugged talks about. A lot of it is certainly very, very, very intentional. But yeah, I mean, the outcome right now is people don't have agency, and it's because and rightfully so in many cases they look around and say, hey, I can't actually change anything. Why would I waste my time talking about it? But if everyone thinks that way, no one does anything. And so kind of all you can do is jump in the icy water at some point and decide, you know what, I'm probably not going to do anything about it. Like there's a 1 in 100,000 chance that me actually choosing to do this changes anything. But I'm going to try, and I'd rather go down swinging. And we have to have as many Americans as possible choose to do that, whatever it takes. And that is how we solve every single one of these issues.
I agree with it. I think I mean, with what we're talking about, I mean, we're talking about solutions. I'm trying to bring things back to the middle, the pendulum back to the middle.
Agreed.
Just by having conversations. I'm not going to fucking run for office, but I think the pendulum is just going way too far over here, too far over here, and it needs to be like this. And the only way we're going to do that is to fucking bring people together. And it's look at the comments section.
Yeah, no, seriously, you have to start talking about actual policy again. Like, stop talking about people. Stop talking about ideas in the abstract. Talk about what we're actually going to do about it. Like, what is the policy? Like, Epstein existed. This happened. This is like probably, I think it's the worst mark on our country to date, is the way we've handled this, the way we've gone about it, but it happened. And so moving forward, instead of complaining about it, let's talk about specifically what we would like to see happen. Like let's orchestrate to say we need the rest of these files released, right? So I think the second you start talking about brass tacks policy, things go back to first principles instead of personality politics, and political division still certainly exists, but at least you're talking about real things that you can resolve.
Yeah.
And then also like the left and right have largely diverged from what it means to be conservative or liberal is the other thing. Like conservatism and liberalism certainly exist, but the two parties aren't necessarily conservative or liberal.
they're not a good representation of what it means.
And so we certainly need to start thinking about things in a post-partisan fashion, right? Like for any policy, there is a right and wrong decision. And that's the other thing, is I think we think too many things are gray, and things can be nuanced, but being nuanced is very different than being gray. And so I think we think about a lot of things that are gray is not gray. Objective truth does exist. There is good policy. No policy is perfect, but there is a best policy. And then we got to start electing candidates too based on policy. Like I would love to go and look at like the amount policy is discussed in presidential debates over the last 2 decades. It's gone so much from policy discussion to like ad hominem and different things that you can directly track as like markers of non-productive conversation. And I think the answer does lie somewhere in the middle. I'll tell you, I'm a conservative. I don't think that's a surprise to many people. But I'll also say most of the problems our country is facing are so acute that the answers are very nonpartisan. Like putting pedophiles in jail better be like
Who would have thought that's a thing?
Right? Like
Who would have thought that?
making sure that we don't live in a unipolar communist world should be pretty bipartisan, right? And so like there are partisan issues, and we do need to talk about those, and we do need to work on them. But the things that like truly threaten the existence of democracy are generally very, very, very bipartisan. And what's happening is we're getting so obsessed with the fringes, and more importantly, so obsessed with the people that control the fringes, that we're forgetting to work on the things that are like glaringly right in front of us, which is good and evil, and is right and wrong, and is sort of productive and unproductive. Like these things are objective.
Damn good point. Man, I can't believe you're fucking 22. This is insane. All right. Couple things to knock out before we get into your life story here. So I have a Patreon account. It's community. And they're the reason that I get to sit here with you today. So they get the opportunity to ask every guest a question. This is from Elijah Wilson. What motivates you to revolutionize defense technology at such a young age, especially in an era where AI and autonomous systems are rapidly evolving?
It's a good question. I think it's because of how rapidly they're evolving. And look, I think age has nothing to do with it. Like I don't think it's any harder to do this at 22 or 40. I've been blessed to work with really, really smart mentors and excellent investors who gave me the capital I needed to do these things. So I don't think it's any different to be 40, 70, 12 working. Or maybe 12's too young. Your brain's not fully developed. My brain, anyway, whatever. But all that being said, the reason this is important to work on right now is that this is just a clear departure in the way wars are fought. And so you see these revolutions in military affairs throughout history. Like World War I is a fantastic example of like cavalry into like machine guns and tanks. It was this crazy revolution in military affairs. You can look at like naval warfare in World War II, battleships to aircraft carriers. And like that is when this happens, the playing field gets completely reshuffled on military power. And small countries can become big countries can fall. We saw this in the First World War like crazy. And so it's this period of just existential risk. And undeniably, we're in one of these periods. My contention is that it's the biggest revolution in military affairs that's ever happened. I mean, you're going from generally assets not having their own intelligence or agency to assets that over time will be able to make decisions, whether we not like it or not. I think none of us like it. Like I certainly wish it was always possible to have a completely human controlled system. But like I was saying, like our adversaries are going to develop these things, and so suddenly if you want to win wars, you have a moral imperative to do the same. And America is the great superpower right now. And the tale as old as time for great superpowers is to become overconfident in their military technologies and to fail. I mean, this is how America exists. It's like the American Revolution of like, and I talk about this too much, but like you adopt new styles of warfighting. These also don't always have to be technologies. I think that was largely driven by the invention of the rifle and accuracy and other things. But you have these small powers punch way above their weight class. And so if the U.S. wants to continue to be the strongest military power, we have to have the best unmanned systems. We have to win this next paradigm of warfare. is the first layer, and then the more important layer even is that America's industrial base right now is not the biggest in the world. It's not even close, and it's getting significantly worse year over year and only accelerating. And so, if we want to be the biggest military power, but our industrial base is smaller, we have to punch above our weight class. Like if I'm using the same factory resources as you, and your factory is 3 times larger than mine, I better be making better systems. And better systems doesn't mean more sophisticated systems. It means the systems that sort of appropriately bring the future of warfighting left as much as possible. And so, instead of being afraid of unmanned systems as the West, we actually, as America, and as the West, need to realize that our era of having a bigger industrial base, at least for the time being, I think a lot of people, myself included, are doing everything they can to make us the top manufacturing superpower on Earth again. But at least for the time being, our factories and our dollars have to go further than our adversaries. And when these revolutions in military affairs happen, you do get this period of time where you have asymmetry, where you can punch above your weight class. And so we have to basically bring the future left. We have to adopt these systems as quickly as possible and at greatest scale as possible to create asymmetry.
Yeah. Great explanation. Thank you. And then everybody gets a gift.
Oh, thank you so much.
Vigilance League gummy bears, legal in all 50 states, made in the USA.
Thank you.
But,
Really
you're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
You're
Really
welcome.
Appreciate it.
So, Ethan, where did you grow up?
Bernie.
Bernie,
San
where?
Antonio.
San Antonio, Texas?
Yes.
What were you into as a kid?
A lot of different stuff. I'm an obsessive person. So I'll find these like month-long obsessions that I'm getting super deep into and change. And so I played football, hunted, fished, did all that stuff. I've always loved woodworking, blacksmithing, stuff like that. And then I'd have weird obsessions along the way. Like,
I mean, how do you get into that? Is your dad into it? Your mom into it?
which portion? The blacksmithing part?
Either one of them.
My
What's your
dad did.
do?
My dad, so he worked at Academy Sporting Goods. I don't know if you've.
Oh yeah,
if
we
they
have one
here. It's an awesome story. He's a badass dude. He was basically the first guy brought on to build Academy's finance infrastructure. So the guy running Academy believed that finance took away from the customer experience, and so they were doing like $1 billion plus in revenue without a financial system, which is terrifying to be doing as a business. Like terrifying. So my dad, when he was super young, he graduated A&M, studied finance. This guy found him and trusted him as like the guy that would figure out a way to like reconcile having to make money with the business with actually like being a good business that did right by its customers. And so I was born when my parents were super young. They were about my age. I got to watch my dad start like super entry level there, working on this, eating an elephant, like going and like trying to like chop through that jungle that existed at the time was a hell of a task. And so over time, he slowly sort of wrangled that machine over my life. Like I got to actually watch it happen from super young age. Because I vividly remember my dad's 27th birthday. Like I was pretty young, and so it was cool to actually watch him progress through his career, taking on these bigger and bigger challenges. Along the way, like some fun stuff. He used to have to visit every store at Academy, like once or twice a year, and so he'd take me on the road with him, while he was going and meeting with these stores, like trying to figure out, hey, there's not really a great inventory system in place here. It's kind of Lord of the Flies.
You're traveling with him.
Started when I was pretty young. I think probably like 7 or 8.
Right on.
And then my dad left Academy when I was probably 12. We used to live in Katy, outside Houston, and we moved to Bernie. So my dad did that. My mom, incredibly smart, was on just an awesome trajectory, but actually like, and I'm so grateful for this, decided to stay home and raise my siblings and I. And that's what my parents did. So she was first generation college. Her father, my grandpa, farms in West Texas, in Hereford, which is near Amarillo. And so I'd spend the summers. The land's like trying to basically kill you at all times in West Texas. Like it's not like Nebraska. It's not a great place to farm, and so it's a very, very intense lifestyle. He never went to college. He got the farm when he was super, super young. And most farm owners, it's super predatory. What happens is you get this giant loan for a farm, and then like 90+% of them end up defaulting and losing all their equity in the farm. And so the banks are super predatory. And anyway, he worked his ass off and was one of the people that was able to keep the farm despite taking it on at a super young age. His father passed away, and so he went to the bank and bought land to kind of support the family. But everyone has hired hands. He like refused to really ever have hired hands, and so my mom and her generation was always the hired hands. And then during the summer, I'd go up and help him because he's probably 75 now, still farms. Like,
Wow.
toughest dude you'll meet. It's amazing that he's been able to do this without ever doing what everyone else does, while also making it through that. He taught me metalworking. My dad taught me woodworking. To be a farmer, you have to be an engineer, right? Especially if you want to like not pay John Deere $500,000 a year because you can't fix your own equipment. You have to basically buy old farm equipment and maintenance it yourself. And so I grew up helping him fix sprinklers, fix combines, fix tractors. And then he has an obsession with planes. He started my family's kind of whole plane obsession. When he was my age, had a Harley. He took off for a couple months, rode his Harley around the country. He was coming back. There was a dude flying an ultralight. My memory of the story even is a bit foggy, and I'm sure he embellished like crazy. But generally, the story goes. I'm not attacking him by saying that. It makes for a great story. But the story goes, he got a license to fly an ultralight. And he had never flown a plane in his life. And he was like, hey, that's a cool plane. Will you trade it for my Harley? Traded his Harley for the ultralight. Had no idea how to fly. Started flying. And just got obsessed with it. And so then he got really into building aircraft. So keep in mind, like no engineering degree, none of that, but actually started building experimental aircraft. And so growing up, you'd wake up early, check the wells, do all that stuff, and then it'd be crazy hot during the day. So we'd sit in the barn working on the planes he was building. My mom didn't really let me fly. Went and flew a couple times. I never actually got to fly because she was scared, rightfully so, that the experimental aircraft would crash. But we'd go and work on them a ton. And then, yeah, he taught me knife making. He taught me a lot of that stuff.
Wow. How many brothers and sisters do you
I have 3. So I'm the oldest of 4.
Right on, right on. Are they into all this stuff too?
To some degree, in different ways. So my brother is a sophomore at A&M. He's going into the Corps. He wants to fly in the Air Force. He's obsessed with planes. Like the dude will like literally memorize an encyclopedia about planes. There's this thing called DCS. That's basically a flight simulator that you can buy that he has like several thousand hours in. Like he's like obsessed with military air power. And my brother and my other brother, so Patrick, Owen, and Grace, are still younger. They're still in high school. Yeah, doing really, really well. My brother's going to play football at Georgetown next year. He's super excited about that.
So congratulations. What else do you? So what age did all this start? Making knives.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough
woodworking.
To describe exactly when. I mean, I grew up helping my dad on woodworking a ton, and then I was pretty young, probably 10 or something. My grandpa made a few of my cousins' knives. This is like the best thing that's happened to me in my life. Made them knives, and he didn't make me a knife, and I was kind of frustrated with him. And I was like, hey, where's my knife? And he's like, oh, you're going to make your knife. And basically, he put me in the barn with like a hacksaw, a handsaw, a file, and like a piece of steel and a piece of wood that we actually went and cut off some furniture. And I stayed in there for like 2 days and alone. Like by teaching me to make knives, I meant like giving me the tools for knife making, and then said, "You're on your own. Go figure it out."
How old were you?
Yeah, I don't remember. I need to look at pictures. Probably around 10. And then from there, I got into a bunch of different things. I used to
figure it out. Hold on.
I did. It's not a great knife, but it's a pretty good knife. I can find a picture of it. I think my mom still has it. I think I ended up giving it to her.
How long did it take you to figure it out?
The first knife I made was actually not bad. So there wasn't that much trial and error. It was a lot of hand sawing. Cutting knife steel with a hacksaw and then hand filing a bevel took forever. And then hand filing the handle. I used the oxyacetylene torch to heat treat the blade because I didn't have a forge. The knife was from an old plow disc. So the plow discs are, I think they're generally 1040 steel. I don't really know, but it's a decent high carbon steel. So I cut it out with, I think I started with oxyacetylene, but then I was horrible with the torch because I had no idea what I was doing. And so then ended up having to clean it up with the hacksaw and file. And then from there, I I don't know. I didn't do great stuff in high school. Like, it wasn't like I was like building computers or building fusion reactors or a lot of different things like people who start companies do. But I would like pour solid rocket motors. My brothers and I would mess around with that quite a bit, stuff like that.
Right on. Public school, private school, home school,
Public school. Yeah. So I'm super fortunate for like I'm a huge believer in public schools.
Yeah. Why so?
Look, I think it's really, really important to grow up interfacing with society as it actually exists, and I think that's the best way to do it. I mean, I'm super grateful. Like, my parents invested deeply in getting me education past that to the extent possible. Like, I think I graduated high school with like 100 or so college hours from college classes I'd taken that they had paid for to take summer camps and stuff. But ultimately, success in life is so much less tied to what you know and to IQ or anything else, and so much more tied to like how good are you with people. And so anyway, I'm not saying it's a silver bullet, and there are definitely areas of this country that public schools are a super hard place to be in. That I wouldn't send my kids to public school. But generally speaking, in Katie and Bernie, like it was fantastic.
Yeah. I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Look, I think it's it depends on the kid. It depends on where you live. It depends on sort of how you want to raise someone. But
I mean, you're obviously an extremely intelligent guy. Were you bored in school?
Sorry, was I
I said you're obviously a very intelligent guy. Were you bored in school?
born in school?
Bored.
Bored.
Was it boring?
Very boring. Very boring. Yeah, I found a way to kind of hack the system, and I didn't take an English class past sophomore year, and I didn't take a math class in school past sophomore year, and so I'd get super bored, and I'd work on other things, and was able to I love learning stuff. Don't get me wrong, but I'm much more sort of hands-on, and I did well in school. Don't get me wrong, but I think today's school system is specifically not built for guys. Like, that's a bold claim for me to make, but like, I think on average, like, anyway, it's hard to coop people up in a classroom and teach them things that they actually have no way of applying to real life. Elon actually has a great quote on this. Like, imagine if the way I taught you to work on a car was not by working on a car, but by sitting there for like 10 hours and describing what a screwdriver is, and not telling you how to use the screwdriver, but like talking about specific bevel angles and like making you memorize the thousands of different screwdrivers that exist for like 22 years. And then on year 23, you know what a screwdriver is, you know what a wrench is, but then I say like, all right, it's not a super useful way of doing things. And so, yeah, I love math and science. Like, I love math and science. I was a nerd in high school, for the record. Like, I started my school's math and science team, and like, don't get me wrong, I was pretty obsessed with that stuff, but only so much is actually applicable. And I do think the school system does two things poorly. One, like a good learning environment is not just being cooped at a desk, taught what to do. It's financially hard to support any other type of learning style, but ideally you're actually working on things. Ideally you're having real conversations. And then two is you're taught too much about the way things are instead of what you can do about it or why things are. And that is obviously it's pretty obvious in like social sciences or other things that that's the case, but even as relates to math, I think we should learn like engineering before math, for instance, so that by the time you're actually learning math, you know how to apply it to engineering. Like the fact that, I'll give you an example, like there are a lot of people that graduate from MIT like having never learned how to CAD in class. So CAD is like on the computer. Let's say you're a mechanical engineer, you spend a lot of your time designing parts. They don't actually teach you how to use the softwares that you use to design parts. They teach you all the equations of like how to analyze parts, but you graduate these schools not actually knowing how to do the real skill. And I think that's the same for, anyway.
Wow, I did not realize that. No shit. They don't teach that in MIT? Wow.
Some classes do, but a lot of people in MIT is also, I think, the best school for like applied knowledge. Like that was my favorite thing about MIT is the amount of projects and the amount of things like that. But I mean, it's a joke of my generation, I think. But like the fact that you don't learn how to do taxes in school, but you go and learn like differential equations is a bit interesting. I don't know if that.
That I 100% agree with you. So, what else were you building as a child?
What else did I build?
I mean, you got a visit by the ATF.
Oh yeah, that was a fun one. That was a fun one. Yeah, I was working on. At the time, so mock really I kind of crystallized around when I was probably like 16 is when I started being like really obsessed with these things. So I worked as an auto tech, and then I used that to buy tools to start making knives and selling furniture and doing all these different things. And then I used that to experiment on stuff for mock, because you can't bootstrap your way into a defense company. Like there's no world in which I wasn't going to have to go raise capital.
Hold on. You started mocking in high school?
Mm-hmm.
No shit.
Oh yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. You can't actually go and ship a defense platform without tens of millions of dollars. And so I wasn't like, the actual output at the time was small, but I was like kind of screaming into the void trying to get this thing started doing everything for the research and stuff. For the ATF visit specifically, there were kind of three things where, sorry, I said we too much. It was me at this point. But that I was working on. One was stratospheric systems. I think the stratosphere is sort of the most important military domain moving forward, and so I was obsessed with balloons, which is a bit of a weird one, but we'll talk about it, I'm sure. Next was fixed wing drones, and then the third was basically hydrogen-based systems. I was obsessed with oxy-hydrogen guns. So there was work that had been done in the 90s surrounding what are called combustion-like gas guns, which is if you combust hydrogen and oxygen instead of gunpowder, basically the speed of sound in the gas is faster, and so you can launch projectiles a lot faster. Like you and I could go and engineer a bullet with gunpowder, and we could put as much gunpowder as we wanted. That bullet's never really going to go above like 4,500 feet per second because of the speed of sound in the gas. And because as you reach some multiple of that speed of sound, the force actually diminishes. And so if you take oxygen and hydrogen combustion, you can reach like 30,000 feet per second, theoretically. And so really, really big performance increases. And so I was pretty obsessed with that in high school and was working on different guns doing this. And so I was building a rifle, 50 caliber rifle. I had built one, it was super janky, but it was basically deer feeder batteries mounted to a backpack with an electrolyzer. So you'd fill it with water and you'd charge the batteries, and it would make hydrogen and oxygen gas. And then on Home Depot and Amazon, I bought basically pipes and different things, and it was a valve that you'd actuate that would open the chamber, spark plug would detonate it, and it would shoot a 1/2-inch ball bearing.
Holy shit. How old are you?
That one, I think I was 16, 17. It didn't work very well for what it's worth. And it reached the point, I never actually got to fire it, because my mom, rightfully so, was like, hey, you're detonating hydrogen and oxygen this far from your face. I ran the numbers. The combustion chamber wasn't going to explode, but like, anyway, it was an unsafe thing to do. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to get professional about this. And so I went and actually designed like what I thought at the time was a proper system. Obviously not.
I mean, what gets you interested in that at 16 years old?
Again, I'm an obsessive.
Like, how did it even pop up on your radar?
I don't know. I like guns. And then I had misconceptions at the time about where warfare was headed. But at that time, I did think that artillery was actually going to be super, super useful. So
at 16, you're thinking about where warfare is headed.
That's my whole family. So like that is one of my dad, I mentioned that he worked in finance. He also shares my brother and I's like weird infatuation with aircraft. Like, he's like obsessive and can tell you anything about any military aircraft. And then my mom's older and younger brother, Nathan and Christopher, were both big-time pilots, are in one case, and so flew F-16s, flew B-2s, flies B-2s. Her older brother, Nathan, graduated from MIT and Harvard at the same time with master's degrees, and basically his MIT thesis in aerospace engineering, this is like in 2000, was unmanned systems for warfare. And his Harvard master's thesis was, and I might be misremembering this, but this is what, anyway, was basically near-peer competition with China. And that was like 25 years ago, 26 years ago.
Holy shit.
And so this is always the dinner table conversation. Like, I didn't arrive at this way of thinking on my own. And like I said, it's important to cultivate these conversations.
This is what you guys are talking about at dinner?
Oh, yeah.
I want to have dinner with you guys.
You're invited anytime. But, yeah, so I had misconceptions but basically my thinking was sensing has gotten a lot better. Traditionally speaking, one of the biggest limiting factors on the usefulness of artillery is sensing. Like, we could shoot further than we could sense in many cases. Well, now with satellites and with drones, you can sense however far you want to, but you're limited by the range of your effectors. And so I went back to the work that had been done in the 90s surrounding rail guns and combustion light gas guns. The issue with rail guns is they tear themselves apart. You have to have a conductive rail. And so I think amortizing the barrel wear on like the Zumwalt class destroyer is something stupid like $1 million a round you shoot. And that's not the cost necessarily of the round you're firing, that's the fact that the gun's ripping itself apart every shot. There's a company, Utron, that had done some really interesting work surrounding actual combustion light gas guns and were able to achieve the same muzzle velocities, but reliably using the mechanism I described to you. So I was interested in this. It ended up being a bad bet. Like, there's a reason we're working on things like Viper and Glide now, because those are the way, like, the principle is the same, the actual engineering behind it couldn't be more different, and the hydrogen stuff is total dead end that I never should have worked on. But ATF story. I was like, okay, I'm gonna get official about this, catted up, an actual rifle. It was 50 cal, 20 millimeter, I don't remember, titanium, like, pretty good system. I found this machinist who said he would machine me these guns, and technically, I think I forget the exact rules, but it was legal what I was doing. At the time, basically a firearm wasn't, or a destructive device was regulated based on combustion of gunpowder and having a casing. Well, my guns didn't have casings, and so it wasn't technically a gun on paper, but it sounded a lot like a gun. Blowing something up to shoot it. Well, I hired this machinist. I gave him like most of my savings from brake check, and all the titanium I bought. He's like, great, I'll build you a gun. Well, 2 weeks later, I was in a like physics test, and I get a call, and the machinist is like, hey, I'm telling you because I feel really bad about doing this, but I ended up just calling the ATF on you, and he kept the money.
Get the fuck out of here.
He kept the money, and then
he kept the money and fucking ratted you out.
Yeah.
Holy shit. A 16-year-old?
Yeah, it wasn't super cool. I get it. Not super cool of him though. But yeah, it ended up getting resolved. But I think my mom had to like go to the principal of the school and like lobby for my case and convince them that I wasn't like building guns to shoot people, and that I was actually like genuinely interested in the science behind it.
Hold on. What did the ATF say?
They were pissed. They were pissed, but ultimately I wasn't breaking the law.
But they couldn't fucking do anything.
I wasn't breaking the law.
Holy shit, are you serious? What are they saying? I love this. This is awesome.
That was a fun one.
We're mad, but you're not doing anything illegal. Okay,
Yeah.
Well, fucking be bad.
I think since then
I'll
it's
be
gone
mad
from
off my property.
Exactly.
Fucking pout over there.
It's the ATF. It's you gotta have run-ins with the ATF anyway. Whatever. But.
I haven't had any run-ins with the ATF. And I don't have any wood to knock on here, but holy shit! What do they say?
Oh,
Remember?
They were pissed about it. I think they tried to do something that the school freaked out about it. My mom was very, very good about going and lobbying my case, and I do think the regulations changed. I do think now it's regulated based on combustion and not based on having a casing.
Thanks, Ethan. No.
Sorry.
Holy shit! So it was shooting ball bearings.
So no, that one was shooting actual machined 50 caliber slugs. So it was an aluminum slug with tungsten at the core.
How far out are you hitting?
Oh, I never got it made.
Oh, okay.
No, so that's the thing. They shut it down.
Wow.
I had to stop work on it, and then that problem was way harder than I expected it to be, to ever get those systems reliable. Because keep in mind, my entire budget for it was like single-digit thousands of dollars. And each of these valves on their own for this high-pressure gas is like a $6,000 solenoid valve right now. And so I was hacking my way through it, doing stuff that we shouldn't have been doing, hand-actuated valves and all these other things. It's one of those things where like, now if I had $100,000 to spend building this gun, I could go and build it, and now if I optimized in-housing those parts, it would be a $1,000 gun. Now no one wants that gun. It's so stupid for so many different reasons, but then also like back in the day, not having any budget to throw against this stuff. Like back at MIT, I used to, all the guys would joke, the football weight room was right next to basically the hobby space, and there'd be lift cycles, and I'd be in the hobby space machining guns in the MIT hobby space. Well, anyway, all the buddies were left. Anyways,
Damn.
do it, but we totally had to hack our way through it, which isn't good. You shouldn't do that. Like, as soon as we got backing, as soon as Sequoia and then Bedrock invested, like, obviously it's a very, very different approach. But the motivation behind it's always been the same. It's what I talked about. It's like, unmanned systems are coming, right? Like, this new era of warfare is here, and so do everything you possibly can to make sure that the West is in a good position against it. And so so that's kind of why Mock started then. And I raised 15-17 was my first investor. They put $1,000 check in high school, which was like the best day ever for me because it like doubled our budget at the time. But then our real capital started after I dropped out of MIT.
What else were you making as a kid? Any other weapon systems? Knives?
Yeah. I made a lot of furniture. I made chessboards, tons of throwing axes. Built an aquaponics system one time, which was pretty fun.
Nice.
I don't know if you've seen those, but you get a fish tank, and I went and caught some bass, or it was perch, sorry, and put them in the fish tank. And then you flow the water through a bed of plants, and the plants clean the water. The plants get fertilized by the fish tank, and then the fish eat the plants. And so it's this like self-replicating system that outputs fish and food, or fish and plants. Wow. That was a fun one.
Right on, man. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get into more MIT.
Let's do it.
Cool. Getting good sleep honestly changes everything. Your energy, your focus, even your mood during the day. One of the biggest upgrades I've made at home has been switching to a Helix mattress. Before Helix, I dealt with restless sleep and waking up feeling stiff. But since making the switch, I'm sleeping deeper and waking up actually recovered. Helix makes finding the right mattress simple. You take their sleep quiz, and it matches you with a mattress built specifically for how you sleep. They're also the most awarded mattress brand, reviewed by experts at places like Forbes and Wired, and they ship straight to your door for free. Plus, you get a 120-night sleep trial and a limited lifetime warranty. So there's really no risk in trying it out. Go to helixsleep.com/SRS for 25% off site-wide. That's helixsleep.com/SRS for 25% off site-wide. Nice. Make sure you enter our show name after checkout so they know we sent you. helixsleep.com/SRS.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Sarah Adams, the host of Vigilance Elite's The Watch Floor, where we highlight...
All right, Ethan, we're back from the break, and we're
all right, that was a pretty tough game.
But MIT.
But we made it.
Did you graduate high school early?
No.
That's surprising. That's real surprising. So did you go straight to MIT from high school?
I did. It was